Okay, we have special guests on the show. Jonathan Otto, Australian-born investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker, known for producing health-focused docuseries like Autoimmune Secrets and Cancer Decoded. After serving as a youth ambassador for World Vision and receiving awards for his charitable work, he shifted his focus to exposing natural healing protocols and chronic disease solutions. He founded the supplement line Well of Life and continues to educate the public on an integrative medicine through his films and digital platforms. He's also the founder of redlifelights.com, which is a sponsor of the show. Welcome to the show, Jonathan Otto.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jimmy. I really love having these conversations, and I'm grateful for you having me on.
Well, tell me, what is the red light therapy all about?
Yeah, well, it's fascinating that it's getting used for what people know about the anti-aging. So look, people don't exactly want to look older, and so the cosmetic side is really interesting, right? Because it's working, and at very least, and this is the stuff I care a little less about because you kind of saw some of the humanitarian side. I'm really concerned about people's health and what's happening to people that kind of has left people without hope. The cosmetic side is a nice add-on to me, right? So it is reversing aging. That's what people know it for. But the most aggressive side of red light therapy is thousands of clinical studies on reversing the whole spectrum of autoimmune conditions to late-stage cancer, which sounds unbelievable, but I could show the clinical data that shows what I'm saying is not just theory but fact.
And what is the so how did you stumble onto this?
Yeah, well, when I was I'm a researcher, right? So I'm an investigative journalist, and this is an example of a book that I wrote on called The Cancer Off Switch, and it was actually one of the guys was this Dr. Antonio Jimenez. He was using this clinically for the past 20 years in his Hope for Cancer treatment centers. By the way, he described my research as groundbreaking and potentially life-saving, and not just recommended but essential. So that his words, not mine. So sometimes I like to qualify it. Listen, you should probably listen to people that are deep in the trenches and working on things alongside clinicians that are getting the best results in the world, which he would be with the Hope for Cancer treatment centers. But I remember seeing with him clinically that when people had late-stage cancer or any type of cancer, they would be using photodynamic therapy and they were getting results using methylene blue in combination with red light. That 12 years ago, when I was a producer for the Truth About Cancer series, that became the most prolific and widespread and well-watched documentary series on cancer, that was when I started to open my eyes on this subject.
Oh, okay. And so, what's the mechanism? Why red light?
Yeah, I know, because people would think about, okay, well, I take XYZ supplement, let's say, this is just one I had on my desk or whatever, and so they would think, okay, well, I get why this works. I kind of because I don't know, maybe people got conditioned with medicine, right? So I could take a pill and it would help something, but people didn't necessarily think, oh, I could get light exposed to my body and then the biological processes would just happen. So even if my gut was kind of wrecked with intestinal permeability, leaky gut, and I can't even absorb the supplements, well, that becomes not a big issue now once you're going straight through the skin with light. And so what happens is that you've got mitochondria in your organ cells, and they count for about 25% of your cells. And when they receive light through light receptors called mitochondrial chromophores, they'll produce energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. I'm trying to make this not too nerdy, right? And then they'll generate reactive oxygen species that specifically will target senescent cells, zombie cells, including circulating tumor cells, and that's why it's getting used as a treatment for red light therapy for cancer, and published in Lancet Oncology, British Medical Journal. The major journals are publishing this data, putting whether it's lung cancer, glioblastomas, brain cancers, or prostate cancer in complete remission. And I'm not exaggerating. You guys are about to see the clinical studies showing what I'm talking about, and that's the mechanism, that's the action, the path of action.
And so go ahead. So show me the studies. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could say all you like, right? But the proof is in the pudding, right? So this is an example here with cutaneous B-cell lymphoma. This was a pilot study, right? I'll show you the studies in a moment that are got 400 plus people in them. This one had 3 people in it, and then you'll see in the bottom section it says a complete response in a patient with this certain type of cutaneous B-cell lymphoma. and it says this, meaning it was a complete remission, and then it's a before and after treatment. This was a single week interval, right? So you wouldn't think with a blood cancer, with a lymphoma, you'd be able to turn that around with a light therapy, but they're using a photosensitizer like methylene blue and then activating with light. And then in this case, all three people had complete remission in a week, right? So that was an interesting study. Everyone can go look up the study, pilot study, cutaneous B-cell lymphoma. Don't even rely on what potential doctoring could happen within these slides. People need to put these words into their search engine and see them, right? So that was an example, like, and that's the Cutaneous Lymphoma Foundation. Go ahead.
So people would say, well, that's not a robust study because it has such a small sample, right?
Oh, exactly, and that's why it's a pilot study, right? So this one would be one that would help to show the other side of that. So having a look at this one was here. You see the Lancet Oncology. This was 413 men, because men are the only ones that can have prostate cancer, right? So you can't identify, right, to have it. But anyway, so you've got two groups. So it's a randomized controlled trial, which to me, I would hate to be in the control group, because 49% went into complete remission in the red light photodynamic therapy group, right? So that's the term that's used, and 13.5% in the control group. So that's almost 400, technically 360%. And the group that got surgery was 6% in the red light. The group that didn't get red light got 30%, ended up having the prostate removed. So that's 500% difference, right? So that was a 2-year study, 413 people. It was University College London that did the eyesight studies on red light as well, showing 17% improvement in eyesight after just 3 minutes if you're over the age of 40 within the same 24-hour period. That was the same group that did the study. And yes, that's a robust study.
And so, I mean, these are kind of remarkable. These are almost incredible results. First, is it just any kind of red light, or is it a special kind of red light?
Yeah, so in this case, that was near infrared light, which is between around 750 and 1100 nanometers. So there's this spectrum. So the optical window is between 600 and 1100 nanometers. So what you're seeing here, so to demonstrate, you're seeing visible red light. That's between the 600 spectrum. Like the blue that you could see there, that's 480. That's a more shallow delivery, right? So it's going to kill skin bacteria. That's why it's used in face masks and things like that for acne and skin conditions, psoriasis, eczema, all those types of things. But the red and near infrared are going to get through the dermis, through the subcutaneous tissue, into the bone, interior tissues, and even into the center of the organs. So particularly the red side of that, right? So there's that's the wavelengths that are essential. And then they're also using in this case, in the clinical studies, it's either lasers or LEDs. And the LEDs is interesting because people kind of associate them with, okay, but isn't that a problem? It is if they have high flicker rates. So the LEDs in people's homes are causing eyesight issues and thyroid issues and various issues with disruption of people's circadian rhythms because of the flicker. So it's turning on and off continually for your eyes. But if it's a consistent source, which is light emitting diode is what LED stands for, then it becomes the most powerful delivery of light. And that's why you've got about 90% of the power going into light, about 10% into heat. That's why they're getting used in these clinical studies, the LEDs, because they can get them over all the organs. They can activate the mitochondria in the organs, generate these reactive oxygen species, that whole spectrum of things, generate cellular energy, make the thyroid work. Like my 87-year-old grandma now doesn't have to take thyroid medication because of red light. So there's these amazing case studies coming out on Hashimoto's showing 96% going to remission after 3 weeks of treatment. So pretty fascinating.
Wow, it is pretty fast. I don't know, how well is this received by the establishment medical associations?
Yeah. Well, it's in the clinical studies, right? It's in the medical journals. I just showed you Lancet Oncology, right? So it's published in the British Medical Journal for post-stroke. It's the number one thing to kind of turn around somebody post-stroke, even if they were a child and they had a stroke on the day they were born, which was the case that was published with this girl Leah at 9 years old, having a complete reversal of what people would have described as autism, right? So It is a threat, right? Because it is, even in the clinical studies that are published on the mainstream journals, NIH, PubMed, that, the industry standards, it actually even uses the words alternative to palliative chemotherapy, photodynamic therapy is an anti-tumor strategy. Okay, so that's a big problem. The issue is that while it's published, if somebody has a condition, their doctor is not going to recommend it in most cases, in almost all cases, right? So that it's kind of, in some ways, it's heavily documented in close to 10,000 studies, and yet it's shows like this that people learn about it, and then they start using it in their homes.
So you don't have to. This isn't necessarily something people need to go to a clinic for. They could do it at home.
Yeah. So like
I have a sauna. I have one of these infrared saunas that I have in my house, and it talks about how it has different settings. You want to use it for sleep, relaxation, whatever, and they claim that it penetrates. It's it doesn't. It goes through your skin, and so so this is something that you could use at your house.
Yeah, it is. And so an example there, so people understand, that's far infrared therapy, and what I'm talking about is red and near infrared. And so they are totally different, even though sauna has benefits. And so I'm a big believer and supporter of sauna therapies. It's part of the reason why my company, we even do sauna blankets that are far infrared heat therapy. So they're good. They'll get you sweating, and they'll activate heat shock proteins and do different things that are essential and helpful, right? And reduce cardiac death risks and certain things. But yeah, red light is the one that's getting like really quick responses, and it's the one that's interfacing with the mitochondrial chromophores, the light receptors, right? Because it's a visible and invisible to the eye, but like all the near infrared that's coming out of here is invisible because these are dual lights. Right. So yes, people do this from home, and one can be a preventative for these chronic conditions that we're talking about, and that's backed in clinical studies, particularly on animals for the preventative side, but heavily for the therapeutic effects of being reversing these conditions. And then yes, people could also use it clinically as well, because the methylene blue studies with intratumoral injections of methylene blue were showing 100% success in the animal studies for multiple. Colorectal cancer, breast cancer, 99.9% for some of them, 100% for others. Melanomas, that was the one I was going for. And so it's showing those. So yes, people could do it clinically for those types of things, or they could look at doing home systems to be either preventative of different conditions or even to go after certain conditions, which we see. Like, for example, you'll find this fascinating. So the chief medical officer here, Dr. Tony Jimenez, the Hope for Cancer Treatment Centers, they get their patients to use our devices in their homes after they come back from treatment, because like it's not a 3-week journey to work on these things. You got to be doing something from home. So that's what they do, and they recommend and get our devices to their patients for their home program.
And so I've known people that use the red light therapy for their hair, right? Is this the same? Is it the same thing, or is it a different?
Yeah, it is. Right. This is an example of that. Right. So you've got this is an example, right? So that's red and near infrared. That's 660 nanometers and 850, which is red and near infrared. So yes, that will work for stimulating hair follicles. The difference between like a panel is that it's going after your organs. And so if I was going after my hair, I'd go after my thyroid especially, because that's maybe the biggest reason why people are losing their hair, or they would be gaining weight and then tempted to take Ozempic, which I wouldn't recommend because it's a Gila monster venom. It's a synthetic form, but it's dangerous in my view. The $2 billion in lawsuits, the blindness, the cancer that's caused the paralysis of the gut, etc. So people should look at correcting their organ function, and yes, whether it's in a mask, but those are often like they're just in a certain area, and we do those because they're effective for those regions. But my biggest encouragement is for people to go after their organ health, to get it over all their essential organs.
And so the thing that's over your shoulder and to your right, that's what people use at their house.
Yeah, exactly. So like that would be either on a stand like this one is, or up against their door, and whether they're doing 15 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day or 20 minutes twice a week, or every combination you could imagine is seen in the studies. So people just have to find something that will work for their schedule. Like I mentioned, like 3 minutes eyes open, 17% improvement in eyesight. That's easy to do 3 minutes, right? So just turn it on, open your eyes, look into it, take out the blue if you're opening your eyes. So yeah, it's very simple like that. Or people can kind of travel with devices like this. And I've got I've got like professional athletes like Tim Tebow and Lance Armstrong and different people that, people know their names using these devices, even the panels, but when they use those a lot, or they're using those in their home. But what they're using, like when a lot of the folks are using like portable devices that go after certain issues. And I remember seeing a woman, Dee Dee, she was 9 out of 10 back pain with sciatica, and this was the device she got to a 0 on, which you wouldn't think that something like that you really could have much hope, because it seems like, okay, well, this is a high pain score, but this was the particular device that was under $400 that she was able to get on her body that turned that around, got her back to a massage therapy career, which she lost that $48,000 a year salary. So you kind of end up begging at some point. But we're seeing a lot of people get their careers back and all types of things. And whether they're younger or older, I saw a mid 90-year-old get her eyesight back just recently, Joanne.
So, eyesight, cancer, what other stuff have you seen this be effective in?
Yeah, I've seen it work for like basically a spectrum of chronic skin conditions. And what I've seen and what the studies say, like the studies would be the best kind of litmus because they're randomized controlled trials, generally speaking. And it's lupus, which is one that you'd think, okay, maybe that could be an issue because people with lupus are light sensitive. But red light therapy is proven to be extremely effective for people with lupus or Hashimoto's, like I mentioned, thyroiditis, which is like a lot of the women watching the show would know about that, right? Because they might be battling with that. And those studies are showing that the red light group will outperform the non-red light group by 70, not 17, 70 times. That's a peer-reviewed study on PubMed. I could show that one because it's almost unbelievable. And then 15 times greater at reducing medication needs. The 70 times better is having the thyroid produce thyroid hormones. That gives you a good litmus test. So chronic kidney disease is affecting close to 1 billion people globally. Okay, so 850 million. So it's proven to help regenerate kidney function because, again, kidneys are relying on mitochondria for their energy to have kidneys work normally and properly. Oh, Jimmy, you might love this one. The acute long COVID studies showed from the European Society of Medicine showed 100% success.
Really?
I want to show that study because that one is hard to believe. I'm going to just let people watch me put this into Google so that you could see this, right? So if I go long COVID, 62, because that's the number of people. So sometimes just remember the keywords. I'm going straight to the European Society of Medicine for their peer-reviewed study here. And here they had 62 people. And this showed here, look at this. Full recovery occurred within 4 sessions for all photobiomodulation patients. I want people to see the title there. And this is whole organ. So that's why we're saying, right, hat, okay, good. But mask, okay, good. But what about the organs? Because that's where the damage is happening, right? So full recovery for all photobiomodulation patients, which was 62, occurred for all the patients. All but 2 cases resolved within 1 week, right? So this was after just 4 sessions total, though. So meaning the other 2 got better in the following weeks. So it was 100% effective. So that's 17 out of 17. For protection for the patients from viral shedding from infected family members. Okay. And by the way, this is often from the intervention that people took, right? The thing that got put into their bodies. I'm just being careful with what I'm saying.
No, so you're saying that it's effective against people who are vaccine injured?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Because do the math on that. Acute long COVID. What is that? Who's that most common in? And of those 62 people, it's probably more like 80% were these injuries versus it just being naturally occurring, because you're way more likely to get acute long COVID if you had taken that shot. And a lot of people are feeling remorse. And I feel that this gives people back hope because at the end of the day, it's mitochondrial damage. And so if you get light into the organs, they can repair. And I'll show you the categories. Photobiomodulation of long COVID outcomes include, notice how these are all oxygen. And this is what's going to blow your mind, Jimmy, on this, because red light is correcting how cells go through cellular respiration, breathing of the cells. It's activating an enzyme called cytochrome C oxidase that causes cellular respiration. So total resolution of dyspnea, which is shortness of breath, 97% saturation of oxygen or above in the blood. So they've got adequate oxygen, which is arguably the biggest cause of all disease. It's oxygen deprivation. Once people work this out, then it makes sense of why all these other issues got corrected, because the oxygen issue got corrected. Relief from digestive distress, elimination of brain fog. Who wouldn't like that? Because some people say, well, I don't score for that, but I do have brain fog. I do have memory issues. My oxygen is low. I do have digestive issues. And so what people should do is just take those symptoms and say, well, maybe I should try this because it's very likely to work in a short period of time. Memory recall, executive function restored, and then emotional deficits. But they weren't able to resolve 2 cases. Look at this. It was 0.25%. That was out of a bigger group of over 300 people. And that was severe long COVID anxiety, which is the fear of getting COVID, which is not a real condition, and nosophobia, which is the fear of getting diseases, which is not a real condition. So I just thought you might find that interesting. You get both of those conditions by watching CNN and not Jimmy Dore.
So, so let's say, I mean, I certainly would like to try this because, I've had lots of adverse reactions to the COVID vax.
Wow. Thanks for being open about that.
Yeah, I've talked about it on the show, and I was actually put in a study, and that's where I found out about what the mitochondria is and how important that is to the energy in your body. And so people, let's say you don't have a chronic condition, would you still recommend this for people?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So the reason I would recommend this for everyone is because really, if you understand it properly, what it's doing is it's helping your body generate new stem cells. And then you're getting into what is an extremely expensive therapy that most people can't afford and most often doesn't work. I'd liken that to a farmer coming to say, oh, you like to have more produce? Here, let me sprinkle some more seeds on your farm. And then the seeds just die. And then people say, well, I knew that wouldn't work. And why did they know it wouldn't work? Because they didn't have the fertilizer, the sunshine, and the soil density or efficiency that would cause the proper growth of the trees or the plants. So this is why it's working. So it's proven to generate, in this case, mesenchymal stem cells within the bones, which is both 2 categories, which is differentiation and proliferation of these cells. And then what that means is that they then migrate to the areas that they needed to go. And you then see the categories that you see here. I'll show you, again, people say a lot of things. Here's the proof for what I'm saying. This here is showing the wavelengths, right? So this is why, as well, our devices are outperforming other devices, which is just good to know, because at the end of the day, you want to get something that works. And it's why the Hope for Cancer Treatment Centers use our devices for their patients. Even though they're affordable, they're consumer prices. It's a medical grade device, but at a consumer price. And that's something that just makes it accessible. But what you see here is all the different colors, right? And these colors are hitting different levels of the body. So look at where they're landing. And so, Jimmy, to answer your question, it's generating activity within these areas of the body that mean you function more optimally. So people don't even know what true north is anymore. They think they're well, but they don't realize how happy they would feel if they get red light into their brain. The depression studies test people for depression an hour after they do red light, and then the second hour is showing dramatic improvements in really short periods. But again, that would have to be near infrared, because you've got to get through the muscle, the bone, interior tissues. You've got to get to the brain. So you're hitting these different levels, and then the clinical studies are showing, and these are the 9 different wavelengths that we're using, right? So, and by the way, that's the clinical evidence showing that you're generating mesenchymal stem cells within the bones, and these are the wavelengths that are proven to do that. And there's the clinical study backing this finding here. So again, mesenchymal, stromal stem cells. Okay, so now go ahead. And so, and I'll just summarize that point, and then I'd like to hear what you got to say. But then, if you look at these categories, and you look at the same thing that is therapeutic to help reverse a condition, which most of the studies are done on reversing the conditions. There's not as many preventative studies because it's not People don't think like that. And so you may not have like Parkinson's, but you've got a brain and you've got a gut, so therefore you should go after that issue. Or you may not have some of the other types of cancer, the breast cancer, the glioblastoma, brain cancer, whatever, or lung cancer, but you have lungs. So you want to interface with these regions of the body with the wavelengths of light that help generate the stem cells and make them migrate and mature in these areas. But look at all these categories and the wavelengths that are proven to work with those conditions, and things that people have learned to accept as normal from the whole autoimmune spectrum, things that like people don't want to live anymore because of the chronic pain or tinnitus, the constant ringing in their ears, or the pain that they're feeling from MS or arthritis. And these wavelengths are working to be therapeutic and remedial and even reverse conditions in many of the studies which I presented just a moment ago. But then the cosmetic categories all score, which means that people look better, the hair growth, which you asked about. But these are pretty prolific studies, and people can fact check every single item there, but it gives you a good overview there. And you see these different types of cancer, and you think, well, I don't have those, but I don't want to get those. So why don't you interface with your organs properly so that you can get them what they need, so they generate enough energy? What people need to understand is that cancer is thriving in low voltage environments, and light is correcting cellular voltage. And once people work that out, then they're going more for energetic therapies more than anything else, and they'll outperform any other therapy.
So right now, there's a lot of talk about ivermectin and other anti-parasitic drugs treating cancer. Are there any studies where you combined red light therapy with those?
Oh yeah, this is why you guys watch Jimmy, because he asks good questions and he thinks well. This is kind of why I cracked the code by thinking like that as an investigative journalist, because I didn't imagine that I'd be educating literally millions of people around the world, particularly like lay people, and the world's most well-known doctors and clinics and all that. So I never imagined that, but it's because of things like what you just did then. I wonder what they would go like together. So then you go into that research. It's called antimicrobial photodynamic therapy, which is antimicrobes, parasites and microbes, right? So that may be the biggest reason why these cancer cases are going into remission, because, for example, that needs to be activated then by the light is activating a photosensitizer, or vice versa, like methylene blue. You take the methylene blue 30 minutes before the red light, and that has been heavily proven to kill parasites. But then it's interesting that this is a great talking point. Mel Gibson, when he went on Rogan's show, he said, yeah, I had 3 friends with stage 4 cancer. They're all in remission. They don't have any cancer anymore at all. And then he mentioned ivermectin, fenbendazole, methylene blue, which needs to be activated by red light, particularly 630 to 660 nanometer red light, which is why it was important to have those in these types of equipment that I have behind me. And then he mentions they're drinking, and he says hydroxine something. And I can't say the actual name for that, but I want to tell people what that is, because if people want to find out about that, this is the site you go to, and this is what they were all using in addition to these other therapies that I just mentioned. This is deoxypedia.com, because there's about 30 million people using this around the world. It costs nothing. You buy it on Amazon for like $30. Again, you'll just learn about it through this. It's open source. But if you don't believe me, look at this and look at what people are reporting. And I mean, look, sorry, Jimmy, it's a little graphic, but I just better to not have it happen to you and know about the tools, or if you've got a loved one, check that out, right? And this prostate cancer case the PSA was over 1,100, which people have typically not heard of. And that was a complete remission. That's all benign. And that was published. Again, this is an open source platform that people just input data. But some of these are peer-reviewed studies, and this is an example of a clinical study done on this particular prostate cancer case using something that is free, that is basically 2 salts at a high concentration activated by the same acid that your gut uses. I've just got to speak in code here there's a water purifier that you could buy, for nothing. And you could use this, these are the mechanisms. Again, notice reactive oxygen species. That's what these mechanisms are that are causing these turnarounds. And if people do this and actually go there and learn and go get this, then I cannot tell you the things that will happen. I mean, it's just amazing what I've seen. Like I'm certain that it saved my brother's life from appendicitis, and then a potential rupture and abscess. And then my grandfather with a skin cancer. So I really want people to know about this. And my father-in-law from COVID, that he was supposed to be intubated the morning that he was mowing the lawn because of this. So I want people to know about that, Jimmy, and it's a way to kind of really give back to everyone, because you deserve to know these things. They're completely censored, and it shouldn't be. It's like one of the safest substances you could take. I've taken it basically every day for the last 3 years.
So there's no negative side effects that you are aware of from taking this?
No, because what they did was they created a situation where they off-gassed it, which they teach you how to do that, and then their safety studies are all there, and so you could see there you go, the damage from the, what we just talked about. And so these are the molecular mechanisms. The safety studies are all and the clinical studies with over 1,000 people, and you can then go into those details. CDS on trial. I've got to be careful about even saying some of these letters. You guys have no idea how prolific the attack is on this. So I've got to just be really careful, and you've got to make sure that we don't, get the show not to air because of that. But you could see all these studies, and this is why as well it's being used for this condition. And these are recovered cases here, but these are ATEC scores is how you score this, and they're going in to remission for using this substance. And red light is extremely effective at restoring mitochondrial function in the brain for these children.
Yeah, well, we have to always say, we're not giving you medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. And of course, always consult your own doctor before you do anything. And we always encourage people to do their own research, even though during COVID, you were told not to do your own research, which was the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
But of course, you should always do your own research and consult, get second opinions and third opinions. But this is great information. This is fantastic. Is there anything I didn't ask you think you'd like to talk about?
I think that in the remaining few minutes, I just want to help people understand how to make the right choices right now. This is an example, right? So my grandma, she's 87. On my wife's side, my grandma on my side, she's passed at 98, and I was grateful that I could help her get to that age and enjoy. And we got to enjoy many more years with her because of the things I'm sharing with you. And so I sent her home with this after she split her head. What do you think she kept taking over the last few years that I couldn't convince her not to take? All those follow up things to make sure that everything's okay. All these injections, right? I'm a little more careful than you are, Jimmy. I'm just being careful.
Okay.
But I sent her home with this, right, to help repair the 16 stitches that she had in her head, and she couldn't live in the home that we built for her anymore. And her thyroid medication would cost what this costs for a year. And now over the next 10 years, that $100 she's paying for a month, each month, would be $12,000 that, provided I get her to the age of my grandma or beyond. So I just want people to frame that and understand that it's expensive to be on the drug bandwagon. It's expensive to have a chronic kidney disease. It's expensive to have chronic heart condition with muscle scarring like myocarditis. Red light therapy has been proven for heart muscle scarring, 80% reduction. That was a Tel Aviv University study, and that was a short period of time. They did combine stem cells with that, but the way to activate more stem cells is again through red light therapy, fasting, so that you can generate your own versus do something that maybe is out of your budget and maybe invasive because they're not your own stem cells, right? So I just think that even though she was doing it incorrectly, she had her back to this the whole time, right? Like I mentioned, the thyroid studies show that it's arguably one of the easiest conditions to turn around with light, but she had her back to this. But even still, she's now no longer needs to take a thyroid medication. But something that was what would be a minimal cost, or what it would cost to go to a clinic for a month. For a single session at a clinic is what it would cost, for example, on a payment plan over, let's say, 12 months is what it would cost to use that every day and have your whole family using it, your husband, your wife, your children. And the clinical studies on eyesight for children showed that out of 6,400 children over 41 clinical trials, red light was the number one thing that stopped vision worsening. What does that show you what it's doing for the brain? Because eyes are part of the brain. So these kids are just happier kids What do you think I'm doing with my children? And what do you think that means for their future fertility in an age that's so toxic? It's almost like they're what I believe it. They're going after that issue so that we, these mass extinction events that await us in different categories, like the glyphosate, what an issue that we're seeing. And then you're combating the mitochondrial damage that's caused by these issues by using practical tools in your home on a daily basis that normally you wouldn't be able to afford them for the regular therapies, going down to these clinics, the time in the day, the first thing in the morning, at night before you go to bed, being able to switch on a light. So I just want to encourage people to get something in your home that works, get things that are safe. Jimmy, like this is an example. I've got an EMF meter. This is, now I'm going to put this over my computer on my phone and you'll see these numbers go up. And then I'll put this EMF meter over there it goes. It's beeping now. It's at 13. I'm going to put it over the device. My screen is smaller, but that is at a 0, right? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting things that don't disrupt and create EMF issues that are then causing your body not to work, properly and function properly, and then doing so at something that is affordable and accessible, and then using it, guys, like even if it's just twice a week or if it's daily. I've shown the studies and the different parameters, and then just engaging. You can then look at these therapies, taking methylene blue in combination or whatever you choose. But getting a device makes a lot of sense, and that's why Jimmy wanted. I got to jump to this other interview, but we've made it possible for people to access it at really affordable prices, and we've given a lot of free gifts as well to let people access these therapies, because I can't really transform somebody unless I can get them to use something, and that's the really great part about this work. So we get to see those transformations because people are using our devices. And I should just probably let people know what code to use even as well, Jimmy, to get a discount. That's fine, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So you go to myredlight.com, and so it's just myredlight.com, made it really easy. There's a training there it's a couple of hours long. If you want to see everything that I present, go through. You guys saw some of those presentation slides. You see me go through every one of those. And so you can check that out. It's a free training there. And then on that page, when you select anything, it could be a single item like this, like a red light belt, just for a few $100s, or a hat or a mask or a panel. In any case, you can use the code. We'll use Jimmy, right? Jimmy 25 for 25% off single items, and Jimmy 30 for 30% off bundled items. So we've made a really big discount available for you guys for a limited time, just while we are running this promotion, and we just want to make it possible for people. And I will be on some of the biggest shows. Like next week, this week I'll be on Russell Brand and Lex Friedman next week. And so just people should be aware that we're doing a lot of really big shows. It's a huge demand. We're a small company with a big mission. So just make sure to if you want something, grab it now before it's gone. And I mean that sincerely, because we just need people that really need these tools to grab them while they're available, because then out of sight, out of mind. You kind of get an idea and a conviction. You think something could maybe work for you, and you never try it. And you got a 60-day money back guarantee, so you could try it for 60 days, see if it works. If you think it doesn't, it's so rare that people do that, but then it's there for you. So you could try it on our dime at no cost to yourself, with a 60-day money back guarantee. So, and a 3-year warranty on the panels and all of that. And this is really cool, Jimmy. Like, these will last. If you look at the FDA Class 2 certification for 50,000 rated lifespan hours, so it's designed to last a lifetime. Like for a family using it, that around that 80-year mark. So we've designed things like cast iron, like medical grade quality, so that people are getting something that really works. So that's the difference of what we're doing versus others, and that's part of the reason why it works. And like I said, you spend money on your health, and so you just do the math on what you're spending, because this will be cheaper than a single supplement. Okay, and you do the math. Like if I bought this supplement every month and it was $50, then that would be $600 for the year. But if I had my family of 4 taking it, it's $2,400 for the year, and over the next 10 years, that's $24,000 for a family of 4 taking one supplement, right? So that's an example, right? So you're saving a lot, and you're able to activate a lot of these processes that not a single supplement or even 4 supplements could do in your own body and your health. So I just wanted to make it simple for people, and that they're good ways to anchor it, to make sure that you're making good decisions today, so you don't have to be in difficult stages where then it becomes super expensive once you get into a really bad situation. So I want people to strike while you have the opportunity to kind of reverse something while you got the chance.
Okay, it's myredlight.com.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Jonathan, Otto Thanks for doing this work. Thanks for bringing this information to our viewers. It's been fascinating. I've heard a lot about this, and I'm glad to finally get to talk to you.
It's a pleasure, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and I look forward to doing this again in the future.
Okay, pal. Take care. Hey, come see us doing live shows May 7th in Burbank, California. That's a Thursday. May 16th, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Then we'll be in Oklahoma City, Spokane, Washington, and Tacoma. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.